All right, let's jump right into today's deep dive.
Sounds good.
We're tackling those crazy financial markets.
Oh, yeah.
Stocks, crypto, you name it, trying to figure out what's important for you.
The stuff that really matters.
Exactly, like getting a cheat sheet to Wall Street, but without all the noise.
Love it.
So we've got this awesome data today from EQAI.
Oh, nice.
They're like the pros, giving us their morning briefing.
A peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. And today is wild.
What's on the agenda?
We've got this OPEC Plus meeting coming up. The U.S. dollar's doing its own thing. And even a big bank is changing its mind on what the market's going to do.
Wow. Sounds like a lot to unpack.
For sure. Let's just jump right in with like a market snapshot,
Yeah, set the scene.
So S&P 500 and Dow Jones, they're both up. Nasdaq's up a little bit, but then there's the Russell 2000, those small cap stocks, and they're actually down.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like all big companies are celebrating. The little guys are kind of left out.
That's a good point. It could mean that investors are getting a little spooked about those smaller companies. Like maybe they're not so sure about their growth.
So maybe they think the smaller ones can't weather the storm as well.
Right. Like when interest rates jump up, those smaller companies really feel it. Or it could be that some specific sectors within that Russell 2000 are just having a rough time.
Okay, so it's not enough to know if the market's up or down.
You've got to look deeper.
Yeah, see what's actually moving and why. Now, crypto, that's always a wild card.
Oh, yeah. Crypto's doing its own thing, like always.
Bitcoin's up, which isn't surprising, but Ethereum is the star today.
Up 5%? That's impressive.
Yeah, what's driving that? Is it just hype or is there something more to it?
I think there's some genuine excitement around Ethereum right now. A lot of people are using its network for these decentralized finance apps, like the new way to handle money stuff without needing those old school banks.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and there's always development happening on the Ethereum network. They're making it better all the time, more useful.
So it's not just talk, they're actually building stuff.
Exactly, and I think investors see that. They see the real-world applications, the constant innovation.
So even though everyone knows Bitcoin, Ethereum's like, hey, I'm coming for you.
Maybe.
Now let's talk about something that could hit everyone's wallet. OPEC Plus. They've got this big meeting coming up.
Yeah, they're a big deal.
Some people might not even know what OPEC Plus is, but their decisions can really mess with the whole global economy.
No kidding, especially energy prices, and that affects everything.
Our notes say that oil prices are already going up just because of this meeting.
Nervous energy.
So what is the market expecting to happen? What are the possible outcomes here?
I think everyone's on edge because if OPEC Plus throws a curveball, those oil prices could skyrocket.
Oh, that's not good.
There are a few things they could do. If they decide to produce more oil, that could help bring prices down, or at least stabilize things. But if they cut production, or even if they just keep things the same, prices could go through the roof.
And with everything else going on, like those geopolitical tensions and the potential for supplies to get messed up, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's definitely a big question mark hanging over everything right now.
A lot hinges on this meeting, that's for sure. Now, another thing that could affect your wallet, the U.S. dollar, it's been getting weaker.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It's pushing down the exchange rate with the Japanese yen, the USDJPY. I know exchange rates can be confusing.
Definitely.
But basically, if you're going to Japan or buying stuff from there, your dollar won't get you as much as it used to.
Makes that sushi a little pricier.
Exactly. So what's causing this dip in the dollar? Is it temporary or is something bigger happening?
Well, a few things are going on. Interest rates are changing, investors aren't as confident in the U.S. economy, and global trade is shifting.
So many factors.
It could be a blip, but it might also be the start of a trend. If the dollar keeps getting weaker, we'll feel it in the price of imports, how much travel costs, even how the global economy balances out.
It makes you realize that even though the dollar is super important, its value can change.
Absolutely. Nothing stays the same forever.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. We've got this bank, one of the most pessimistic ones on Wall Street, always predicting doom and gloom.
The classic bears.
Yeah, and they just did a total 180. They're now saying the S&P 500 will hit 6,500 next year.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
Right. They're basing this on two things. Central banks might cut interest rates, and everyone's spending a ton on AI.
Interesting. So even the most cautious folks are starting to see potential for growth.
It seems like it. What do you think about those two factors, the interest rates and the AI spending?
Well, lower interest rates would definitely make it easier for companies to borrow money and invest, which could really boost the economy. And the AI spending, well, that shows you that companies are going all in on this technology. They think it's going to change everything, create tons of new opportunities.
So it's not just about the immediate effects, it's about what those changes represent for the future.
Exactly. AI is becoming this massive force, and the market's definitely paying attention.
Let's bring this down to earth for a second. Look at a specific company, Aston Martin, the luxury car maker.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
They had to issue a profit warning today because they're having trouble delivering their new limited edition sports car, the Valiant.
Production issues.
Yeah, delays. It might seem like just car news, but it actually highlights some of the bigger problems businesses are facing right now, especially those fancy brands.
I see what you mean. Supply chain problems, they're still wreaking havoc, messing up production and delivery times. And on top of that, the global economy is so uncertain that people are hesitant to splurge on luxury items.
So Aston Martin's struggles could be a sign of things to come for the whole luxury market.
It's a canary in the coal mine situation. One company's problems can often reflect bigger economic trends.
Right, it's not just about one car, it's about those bigger forces at play. Okay, let's look at some specific sectors now. First up, tech.
The world of AI and semiconductors.
Exactly. Valuations are up, there's a lot of buzz.
Makes sense. Companies investing heavily in AI, especially those building these large language models, they're the ones attracting investors.
The ones building those AI systems that can almost understand and talk like humans.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing stuff. And then there's quantum computing and edge computing, technologies that are pushing the limits of what's possible.
So investors are looking at who's really innovating, who's pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely. That's where the future of tech lies.
Now, energy. We've got this OPEC Plus meeting hanging over everything.
Huge implications there.
But at the same time, we've got this massive growth in renewable energy investments, like two different energy worlds colliding.
It's an interesting dynamic. We're still reliant on fossil fuels to keep the world running.
But everyone's talking about cleaner energy.
Exactly. There's this huge push towards sustainability.
Where do you see this balance shifting in the long term? Will oil and gas just disappear?
I think the shift to renewable energy is inevitable, but it's going to take time. Fossil fuels will still be around for a while, but I think their dominance will gradually decline as renewable technologies get better and cheaper.
So a mix of energy sources for the future.
Most likely, yeah. And the balance will keep tipping towards renewables as time goes on.
A gradual transition.
Exactly. It'll be a fascinating process to watch unfold.
Yeah, and it'll create a lot of new challenges too.
Speaking of changes, let's talk about finance.
Oh yeah, finance is getting shaken up big time.
With all this fintech stuff popping up,
Exactly. It's a whole new world.
our briefing mentions that banks are investing a lot in blockchain technology.
Trying to keep up. So do you think these traditional banks are actually threatened by fintech? Or are they just adapting, incorporating all this new tech?
Honestly, it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fintech companies are definitely nimble and innovative. They're offering solutions that completely bypass the old way of doing things.
And they appeal to younger folks who are used to doing everything online.
Absolutely, that's their target audience.
Yeah.
But those big banks, they've got a huge advantage, you know?
In what way?
They've got tons of resources, established customers who trust them, and they're just massive. The smart ones are realizing they need to evolve, embrace things like blockchain if they want to stay in the game.
It's like a battle for the future of finance.
Exactly. And both sides have their strengths. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Look at the global picture.
The big picture.
We talked about the US dollar getting weaker, and our briefing suggests that this could actually be good news for emerging markets.
Yeah, a weaker dollar makes their exports more attractive to other countries.
Oh, I see, because their goods become cheaper in comparison.
Exactly. And it also helps with any debts they have that are in US dollars.
So it can actually boost their economies.
Yeah, potentially. It's an upside to a trend that's usually seen as negative.
That's a good point. But the briefing also mentions those geopolitical tensions and unpredictable trade policies.
Ah, yes, the wild cards.
It's like trying to forecast the weather when the climate's going haywire.
It's a complex world out there. We've got interconnected economies, shifting power dynamics. It's unpredictable.
So what are some of the biggest geopolitical risks we should be watching?
Well, things like escalating trade wars are a big one. Then you've got political instability in key regions and even potential conflicts over resources, especially with climate change becoming more and more of an issue.
And these things probably hit emerging markets harder, right?
Yeah, they tend to be more vulnerable to those kinds of shocks. Their economies rely heavily on global trade and investment.
So it's not just about understanding the numbers, it's about understanding the global landscape, the political stuff too.
Exactly, it's all connected.
It seems like our equity AI analysts are cautiously optimistic overall.
Yeah, that seems to be the vibe.
They acknowledge things are volatile, but believe the fundamentals are solid.
And they're really highlighting AI and renewable energy as the sectors to watch.
The future, huh?
Looks like it. The briefing paints a picture of a market that's dynamic, full of uncertainty, but also full of opportunities for growth and innovation.
So how should people approach this kind of market?
Well, staying informed is crucial, obviously. Diversifying investments is always a good strategy. And being adaptable, ready to adjust your approach as things change.
That's great advice. Thank you. And for our listeners, in this world where everything's changing so fast, what's one skill or area of knowledge that you think will be absolutely essential for navigating the markets in the coming years?
You know, in a world overflowing with information, I think the most important skill is being able to tell the signal from the noise.
What do you mean by that?
Being able to filter through all the data, the opinions, the predictions, and figure out what's actually relevant, what's reliable.
So it's not just about having access to information, it's about being able to evaluate it critically.
Exactly. We're constantly bombarded with information from all sides. Developing that critical thinking muscle, being able to analyze, synthesize, and draw your own conclusions, that's crucial.
It's like being a detective in the financial markets.
I like that analogy. And just like a good detective, you need to be a lifelong learner. The financial landscape is constantly evolving, new technologies, new trends. You need to be able to adapt and keep learning.
Because the only constant is change.
Precisely. Embracing that change, seeing it as an opportunity to grow and learn,
Mhm.
that's what will set you apart.
So, to wrap things up, if you want to succeed in the financial markets, sharpen those critical thinking skills, become a master at filtering information, and never stop learning.
Those are the keys to success in this dynamic world.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. It's been a great discussion.
From market trends and geopolitical risks to the impact of AI and the rise of renewable energy, it's been a fascinating deep dive.
A real pleasure exploring these trends with you.
And for our listeners, remember that this is just the beginning of your journey.
There's always more to learn, more to discover.
Keep that curiosity alive, keep those critical thinking gears turning, and join us next time for another deep dive into the world of finance. And don't forget, the most valuable investment you can make is in yourself and your understanding of the world. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure diving in with you today. A lot to think about for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we've covered a ton today.
We have, from, market trends to AI, even those geopolitical wildcards.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, a fascinating deep dive into, well, everything.
It really has. I always enjoy getting to explore these things with you.
Me too. And for everyone listening, remember, this is just the start.
Keep learning, keep digging. That's the key.
Exactly. Stay curious, keep thinking critically, and join us again for our next deep dive into, well, wherever the markets take us.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. And remember, the best investment you can make, it's in yourself and understanding this crazy world we live in.
Couldn't agree more. It's been great chatting with you today, and to everyone listening, keep on learning.